Hello, everyone. This is Mohan. I'm here to talk about corporate life and careers. And today's topic is going to be about BGV, background verification. I've worked in a dozen countries across three continents, and I've switched job several times in my career spanning more than 2 decades. And every job switch, especially working for a multinational, has come with a rigorous background check. Right? And every time I switch jobs, employers go through a background check, ask several questions, ask for documentations to verify. And I've also been on the other side of the equation as a hiring manager, working for these multinationals, where I work with my HR business partners or recruiters to do a background check for employees. So there was an interesting question that came up in a Reddit forum recently, and this triggered my response that really took off. And I thought I'll make this into a short video to share my perspective. The question was about faking your experience. And the summary, TLDR, too long to read, was never lie. And if you're caught, your professional life could be at risk. And this is very, very true. And I say that as an employee who has gone through this exercise several times in my career during job switches, and also as an employee. Right? So let me share an example of a background check that I went through. Right? This is a copy I received as a part of the BGV that was done for me. So I asked for a copy of that, and I got it. So this pretty much summarizes, my background for that employment, right? And it like it says here, organization name. It was done for consumer verification purposes, right? And an employment data report. What now? Let's switch back to the Q&A that really triggered this conversation. What and why of background verification? In today's digital era and the proliferation of fraud, employers really want to address this risk. The risk that the employee that you're looking to hire is trustworthy and he or she is really who he or she claims to be and has the same experience or background that he or she claimed to have during the interview. So this is simply put a de-risking exercise that the HR recommends to the hiring manager. And as a part of this, there's a BGV, background verification, that's done. And a lot of times, employers directly don't do it. They hire outsourced companies that specialized in BGV. For example, the top BGV vendors in India could include FactSuite, HireRight India, AuthBridge, Verifax, KPMG, AuthExperts. Now, each of them has their own processes, ways of working, and how they gather information. But in summary, what they really do is get details about the employment history and possibly even credit history of the candidate and share a summary of that, similar to the report I was showing earlier. Share that report with the hiring manager and the HR business partner of the client company. The hiring manager and the HR manager then review it and see for look for any inconsistencies. And if there are inconsistencies, pretty small ones, like maybe a gap of a few months between employment, they ask the candidate to explain it. And the candidate is free to explain it. And if the candidate is able to successfully explain away the gaps or the issues that are highlighted in the report, all is good, you move forward. If not, and if you're caught with a lie, you are toast. You could be blacklisted. There are several penalties that could follow, right? And as a part of this Q&A, what happened is a bunch of questions came up in this forum, right? When I posted as a hiring manager, I have worked with recruiters and outsourced BGP firms, and I completely agree with the original poster on not faking it. Right? And the reason you should not fake it is simply put, BGP firms, especially the top firms that are hired by multinational companies, charge a huge amount for this exercise. And because they charge that, they go through the trigger, look at your background with a tooth comb, and they can highlight issues if there are any. They not only weed out scamsters, but also maintain a database of people who have scammed in the past. And they cross check against them. And you don't want to be in that blacklist or that database. Now, the top questions that came about BGV is, can I ask one of these companies to do a background check myself? Can I know their names? I just shared the names with you, right? These are the top 10 ones. You can refer to them. Sometimes they may have an offering where an individual could sign up and ask for a report for themselves. I'm not sure about that. You can check. Now, on the other hand, if you've been through this exercise and an employer has done a BGB report for you, you can ask for a copy of that report, both from from that employer, or as per the GDPR, you can also ask a BGV vendor to provide you a report, a copy of that, and a copy of that will certainly be shared with you. Now, the other question that came up is, you don't really fake it, but say you abruptly left the company or absconded from the company for whatever reason. Say there was a bond, or you left without being relieved formally. Would that be highlighted in such a report? Again, it depends, right? A lot of this information is captured by these BGV companies from organizations that provide inputs. A lot of times the input is simply about the hiring. Like, how long were you working there? What was your role? And possibly what your salary was. They may or may not capture all the details of the reasons for leaving. But sometimes they do capture adverse reactions or adverse remarks. Like if you broke a bond and left, your HR manager or the company from the past might share that as an adverse remark as a part of the BGB exercise to the BGB. And again, it depends. Now, the other question that came up is, I have experience, but lie about the role. Can they find out about it? Now, this is a very tricky area because a lot of times BGV is about, yes, did you work at that certain company that you claim to work at? And how long did you work there? Now, the roles and the definitions of the roles or the titles could vary from company to company, and they're highly subjective. So if you claim to be an associate vice president at a banking firm, that is kind of equivalent to a senior manager in another multinational company. Now, will the title matter? It depends. The title may or may not be recorded, but what will be recorded is your experience and how long you worked for that company. So I wouldn't say it is easy to fudge that, or you should be. It is highly nebulous because these titles really vary. Now, one thing to watch out for is a lot of times the titles that you use in your resume should be consistent with the titles you have in your LinkedIn profile. And now, increasingly, with LinkedIn being what it is, a cross-reference of your profiles with your colleagues, with everyone else, fudging there can really stand out. So that's another area where your employer or the BGV might highlight inconsistency, saying you claim to be, say, an AVP at that bank, but you were really a senior developer, and that's what your title in LinkedIn shows. Right? So it's not just the BGV from different sources. Now, the other question that comes up, I have experience, but lie about, the reason for resigning. If you're a senior manager and you were asked to resign as a part of a downsizing or as a part of some reorg in the organization. If you're asked to resign, you voluntarily resigned and left, would it show as a resigned, or will it show as you are fired? Probably as a resignation, because that is a negotiation you had with your employer. So it's not really something that was in your control, but you took control of it and showed that you were willing to resign, and with certain terms and conditions. So on paper, it would show that yes, you worked from say a month X to month Y of a certain year, and that is all it is going to show. What about exaggerated work? Work that I've done in my previous organization. Like, for example, I really created a new LLM, taking the ChatGPT model, and that LLM was used across the company and was the backbone of artificial intelligence for my multinational organization. Now, this is a white lab, right? And this exaggeration happens all the time, and it could be caught in several ways. Like I said, sources like LinkedIn, and you fudge it, other employees of your company are going to point it out in LinkedIn or comment about it in other social media sites, or when someone from the BGV talks to your previous employee. So it depends on how much exaggeration that you want to do and what you want to really exaggerate. So these were some of the top questions that came up about BGV, and I thought I'll share my 2 cents. Now, in that Reddit profile, one comment that really cracked me up about BGV was faking experience is really bad thing. But if those guys should really be doing an FBI level background check, scanning every small detail of your background, and whether your candidate's college professor had syphilis or cold during your final year. And that's freaking crazy, right? It is. But it depends on the level of BGV that the vendor is hired to do. Some companies, especially in the banking, financial services, or in certain healthcare sectors, want to really go through your background with a tooth comb. They want to be able to say they hired the most trustworthy candidate out there and de-risk themselves. So again, it really depends. A BGV company that's hired to do will do it as per the parameters that they are told to use for that verification. Thanks, everyone.